In the icy reaches of Midgard, where the frozen seas meet jagged cliffs and the wind carries whispers of forgotten gods, a lone Skald named Birger wanders. Renowned for his gift of weaving tales that stir the hearts of warriors and chieftains alike, he hides a truth he cannot outrun, a past marked by betrayal and shame that left him exiled from his kin. Beneath his poetic verses lies a man searching for redemption, though he knows not where to find it. Yet, fate often calls upon the unlikeliest of heroes, and Birger's path is about to intertwine with forces far greater than he could have imagined. One fateful night, drawn by an eerie melody carried on the icy winds, Birger stumbles upon a desolate village on the edge of a frozen fjord. There, trapped within the ice, lies Naglfar, the fabled ship of the dead, its deck haunted by restless spirits bound by oaths made in life. Mistaken for a messenger of Odin, Birger is thrust into a perilous quest to deliver the spirit's final plea to the gods. Joined by Ragnhild, a fierce shield maiden seeking her lost brother among the cursed crew, Birger must navigate treacherous lands, face frost giants and spectral wolves, and confront the trickster Loki himself. But the path to redemption comes at a cost, and Birger must decide whether he is willing to sacrifice the one thing that defines him, his voice, to bring peace to the souls of the damned. Welcome to Hugin and Munin Stories. This is our story, The Frozen Shore, a Skald's Reckoning. Chapter 1. The Haunting Melody. The northern winds screamed like hungry wolves, clawing at Birger's fur-lined cloak as he trudged through the snowdrifts. Each step felt heavier than the last, his worn boots sinking into the frost-encrusted ground. The sharp sting of the cold was a familiar companion, but tonight it bit deeper, as if the icy air itself resented his presence. Birger gripped the harp slung over his shoulder, its smooth, weathered wood worn by years of travel. The stories he carried, legends of gods, warriors, and glory, had earned him favor in many halls. Yet none of the tales he told could soothe the ache of his own past. Exile had stripped him of his name in his homeland, and the betrayal that haunted him was a shadow he could never outrun. Ahead, the outline of a village came into view, huddled against the edge of a frozen fjord. Relief stirred within him. He hadn't eaten a warm meal in days. Yet as he descended the final slope, unease crept in. No hearth fire lit the night. No voices rose in greeting. The village was silent, its homes dark and lifeless beneath the pale moonlight. Birger hesitated, pulling his cloak tighter around him. He called out, his voice echoing into the void. "Hello? Is anyone there?" No answer came. He entered the village cautiously, his boots crunching on the frost. The first house he passed stood wide open, its door swaying in the wind. A table inside was set for a meal, bowls and spoons frozen solid where they lay. A chair had toppled backward, its legs jutting into the air like a broken limb. The silence pressed on him like a weight. He whispered, "What happened here?" Deeper into the village, he found more signs of sudden abandonment. A cart overturned in the snow, its cargo scattered, footprints leading toward the fjord but never returning. Then he heard it, a faint melody carried on the wind, so hauntingly beautiful it stopped him in his tracks. The music seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It called to him, a thread of sound weaving through the frozen air. With hesitant steps, Birger followed the melody to the edge of the fjord. The ice stretched out before him, a jagged expanse of shattered mirrors. There, caught in the frozen sea, loomed a ship unlike any Birger had ever seen. Its blackened hull was enormous, its prow carved into the shape of a snarling wolf. The mast rose high into the heavens, bearing a tattered raven banner that flapped in the windless night. Birger's breath caught. Naglfar, he whispered, the name slipping from his lips like a curse. The stories spoke of this ship, a vessel built from the nails of the dead, destined to sail during Ragnarok and herald the doom of gods and men alike. Yet here it was, trapped and forgotten in the ice. The melody grew louder, swelling with a mournful urgency. Birger approached cautiously, his boots crunching on the frozen shore. As he drew closer, he saw skeletal remains scattered across the deck, their armor glinting faintly in the moonlight. Then the air grew cold, colder than it had any right to be. A creaking sound, like ancient wood straining against the wind, rose from the ship. Shadows shifted across the deck, and the first figure appeared. It was a warrior, his ghostly form clad in spectral armor, his hollow eyes glowing faintly with cold fire. He turned his gaze on Birger, his voice like the groan of splitting ice. "Who disturbs our rest?" Birger's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stand tall. "I am Birger, a Skald. I mean no harm." More spirits emerged, their translucent forms rising from the ice like smoke, their hollow eyes fixed on him, unblinking and unnerving. "You," one of them rasped, "you bear the voice of the gods. Are you not a messenger of Odin?" Birger hesitated, his mind racing. To deny them could provoke their wrath, but to claim such a mantle was blasphemy. He chose his words carefully. "I am but a storyteller, no more. If the gods sent me, it is without my knowing." The spirit's murmurs grew louder, like the wind howling through a crumbling hall. The lead spirit stepped forward, his voice sharp as the frost. "You will aid us," he commanded. "Our oaths bind us to this cursed vessel. Betrayed in life, we failed our mission, and now we wander between realms. You will deliver our message to the All-Father and lift this curse, or share our torment." Birger's throat tightened. He opened his mouth to protest, but the melody surged, drowning out his thoughts. The spirits drew closer, their forms flickering like dying embers. Before Birger could act, the lead spirit reached out, his icy touch sending a jolt of pain through the Skald. The world blurred, and the last thing Birger heard was the melody twisting into something darker, a sound that would haunt him long after he awoke. Chapter 2. The Shield Maiden's Search. When Birger regained consciousness, he was kneeling on the frozen deck of Naglfar. The bitter cold gnawed at his limbs, but it was the oppressive presence of the spirits that weighed on him most. They encircled him, their hollow eyes burning with grim purpose. "Our message must reach Odin," the lead spirit intoned. "We failed him in life, but we will not fail again in death. You will carry our plea, Skald, or the curse will claim you." Birger struggled to his feet, his legs unsteady on the frost-slick wood. He opened his mouth to respond, but his words were cut short by a sudden shout from the shoreline. "Halt! What sorcery is this?" The spirits turned, their forms flickering as a figure emerged from the shadows of the frozen fjord. She was tall, her fur-lined cloak billowing in the icy wind. Golden braids framed her fierce face, and her steel-gray eyes locked onto the spectral warriors with a warrior's intensity. A sword rested at her side, its blade gleaming in the pale light. "Who dares confront the dead?" she demanded, her voice steady and commanding. The lead spirit regarded her with disdain. "Leave, mortal. You meddle in matters beyond your comprehension." The woman stepped forward, undeterred. "I am Ragnhild, shield maiden of the Bjornfell clan. I seek my brother, Arvid, who vanished on these shores. If he is among you, I will see him freed." A murmur rippled through the spirits, their forms shifting uneasily. The lead spirit's hollow gaze fixed on her. Your brother was one of us. He swore his life to Odin's cause and fell in battle. He is bound to this vessel, as are we all. Ragnhild's jaw tightened, her hand moving instinctively to the hilt of her sword. Then I will free him, even if I must shatter this cursed ship plank by plank. Birger stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. Wait, shield maiden. Violence will not lift this curse. He turned to the spirits, his voice firm. If I am to carry your message to Odin, I will need help. Ragnhild seeks her brother, and her strength may be the key to fulfilling your task. Let her join this quest. The spirits were silent for a long moment, their forms flickering like dying flames. Finally, the lead spirit nodded. Very well, but be warned, mortal. The path to Asgard is perilous, and failure will bring ruin to you both. With that, the spirits faded, leaving Birger and Ragnhild standing alone on the frozen deck. The oppressive chill lifted slightly, though the air remained heavy with foreboding. Ragnhild turned to Birger, her expression skeptical. You claim to be a Skald, yet you speak with the authority of a chieftain. Who are you, truly? Birger hesitated, the weight of his past pressing heavily on him. I am no one of consequence, an exile, wandering where I may. She frowned, but her gaze softened. An exile with the courage to face the dead. Perhaps you are not as unworthy as you claim. Birger managed a faint smile. And you, shield maiden, what drives you to such lengths for your brother? Ragnhild's eyes hardened, though her voice remained steady. Family is sacred. When Arvid vanished, he left behind a child too young to remember his face. I will see him freed, for his son deserves to know the man who gave him life. Birger nodded, her words striking a chord within him. He had once known the bonds of family, long before his betrayal severed them. Then, let us see this through, he said. The spirits spoke of dangers ahead. We will need your sword and my wits to survive. As they stepped off the ship, the melody that had haunted the air returned, faint but insistent. The snow-covered cliffs loomed ahead, their jagged peaks glowing faintly under the moonlight. Their journey had begun, but Birger knew the true test lay ahead. Not just in the dangers of the frozen wilds, but in the secrets he carried. If they were to succeed, he would need to confront the shadows of his past and find a strength he had long thought lost. Chapter 3. The Frost Giant's Riddle. The frozen wilderness stretched endlessly before them, a wasteland of snow and jagged ice. The spectral melody guided Birger and Ragnhild through the treacherous terrain, its haunting notes drifting on the biting wind. The landscape seemed alive, shifting and changing with each step, as though it sought to test their resolve. Ragnhild marched with unwavering determination, her sword drawn and ready. Birger followed close behind, clutching his harp as if it could shield him from the growing sense of unease. We are being watched, Ragnhild said, her voice low. Birger nodded, though he saw nothing but the barren expanse. What could it be? The spirit spoke of frost giants. As if summoned by his words, the ground beneath them shuddered. A low rumble echoed through the air, followed by a booming voice that froze them in their tracks. Who dares trespass upon my domain? Ahead, a colossal figure emerged from the snowstorm, its massive form towering over the cliffs. It was a frost giant, his armor forged from ice and his eyes glowing with a pale blue light. He carried a massive axe, its blade encrusted with frost that shimmered in the moonlight. Ragnhild stepped forward, defiance blazing in her eyes. We seek passage to Asgard, giant. Stand aside or face my blade. The frost giant laughed, a sound like glaciers breaking apart. Bold words from such small creatures. You may pass only if you prove your worth. I will not test your strength, for your kind is fragile and fleeting. Instead, I shall test your minds. Birger's pulse quickened. A battle against a frost giant would have been a death sentence, but riddles he could handle. The giant leaned down, his icy breath chilling the air between them. Listen well, mortals. Answer true, or you will remain here as frozen statues, your quest forever unfinished. He paused, his glowing eyes narrowing. I am a traveler without feet, silent in the night. I reveal the hidden and brighten the dark, but flee when the dawn arrives. What am I? Birger frowned, his mind racing. The frost giant's riddle conjured images of myths and lore, but the answer danced just out of reach. Beside him, Ragnhild's brow furrowed in thought. A traveler without feet, she murmured, brightens the dark, but flees the dawn. Birger's eyes widened as realization struck. He turned to the giant, his voice steady. The answer is firelight, a flame that guides but cannot endure the light of day. The frost giant's laughter rumbled like an avalanche. Wrong, Skald. Your answer is clever, but it is not truth. Birger's stomach dropped, but Ragnhild stepped forward, her voice calm. No, it is the moon. The moon travels the night sky, reveals the world with its light, but fades with the rising sun. The giant was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the shield maiden. Then he threw back his head and laughed, a booming sound that shook the cliffs. Well done, mortal woman. You have proven yourself worthy. The path to Asgard lies ahead, but tread carefully. Loki's mischief grows stronger the closer you draw to the Allfather's halls. The frost giant raised his massive hand, and the snow parted, revealing a narrow pass that glowed faintly with an otherworldly light. Go, he said, his voice softer now. But remember this, every choice has a cost, and the gods are not as merciful as you might hope. Ragnhild sheathed her sword, giving the giant a nod of respect. Thank you, giant. May your domain remain unbroken. Birger lingered, his gaze fixed on the giant. Why do you let us pass? What gain is there for you? The frost giant's eyes gleamed with something that might have been sadness. I have seen many quests begin, Skald, and few end in triumph. Perhaps I wish to see if mortals can still surprise me. With that, the giant turned and disappeared into the storm, his massive form fading like a dream. Birger and Ragnhild entered the pass, the air around them heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. The melody that had guided them grew louder, its notes more insistent, as if urging them onward. But Birger could not shake the frost giant's final words. Every choice has a cost. And as they neared the end of their journey, he began to wonder if the price he would pay was greater than he could bear. Chapter 4. The Price of a Voice. The air grew heavier as Birger and Ragnhild stepped onto the frost bridge, its translucent arches stretching impossibly high into the heavens. Beneath their feet, shards of ice glowed with an eerie light, pulsing faintly with each step they took. Above them, the stars seemed closer, their cold brilliance casting the frozen expanse into sharp relief. Ragnhild marched ahead, her sword drawn and her jaw set. Birger followed, clutching his harp, though its familiar weight brought little comfort. The melody that had guided them was now a cacophony of dissonant notes, tugging them forward like an invisible leash. As they approached the midpoint of the bridge, a shadow coalesced ahead, swirling and shifting like smoke caught in a gale. Loki appeared before them, his form flickering between solidity and translucence. His sharp grin gleamed like a predator's teeth. "Well, well," he said, his voice smooth and mocking. "The brave Skald and the fierce shield maiden, you've done admirably to make it this far. Truly, I'm impressed." "Step aside, Loki," Ragnhild growled, leveling her sword at him. "Your tricks will not stop us." Loki laughed, the sound cold and hollow. "Ah, but it's not my tricks you should fear. No, it's your own doubts, your own secrets." His gaze flicked to Birger. "Isn't that right, storyteller? Shall I weave your tale for the shield maiden here? A tale of betrayal and cowardice?" Birger's hands tightened around his harp, his knuckles white. "Say what you will, trickster, but it is my tale to tell." "Oh, how noble," Loki said, rolling his eyes. "But let's make this interesting, shall we?" With a wave of his hand, the bridge trembled, and from its icy surface emerged a pack of spectral wolves, their glowing eyes fixed hungrily on the mortals. "They grow stronger with every doubt," Loki said, his grin widening. "Every fear you carry. Can you face them, knowing the weight of your failures?" The wolves lunged. Ragnhild moved first, her sword flashing as she met the beasts head-on. Her strikes were precise, her movements fluid, but for every wolf she cut down, another seemed to rise in its place. Birger stepped back, his harp trembling in his hands. The melody that haunted the air twisted into a discordant wail, filling his ears with doubts. The betrayal he had run from all these years surged in his mind. The look of betrayal in his brother's eyes, the shame that had chased him across the frozen lands. "Birger!" Ragnhild shouted, her voice cutting through his despair. "I need you!" Her words jolted him, and he tightened his grip on the harp. His voice, though trembling, rose above the cacophony. He sang a verse, a tale of a hero who rose above his failures, who faced the darkness within himself and found the strength to endure. The wolves faltered, their forms flickering. Birger's voice grew stronger as he sang, weaving a melody that drowned out Loki's laughter. The spectral wolves howled, their forms dissolving into mist as the song filled the frozen bridge. When the last wolf vanished, Loki clapped slowly, his grin never wavering. "Impressive. You may have silenced my pets, but the hardest test still lies ahead." With a snap of his fingers, he disappeared, leaving the bridge silent once more. Birger and Ragnhild pressed onward, their breaths ragged, but their resolve unshaken. When they reached the end of the frost bridge, they found themselves standing before the golden gates of Asgard. The melody that had guided them faded into a tense silence, and the weight of the god's gaze fell upon them. Odin waited beyond the gates, his lone eye fixed on the mortals, with an intensity that seemed to pierce their very souls. Birger stepped forward, his knees trembling. He knelt before the Allfather, cradling his harp. "Great Odin, I come bearing the plea of the spirits bound to Naglfar. They were betrayed and cursed, their oaths unfulfilled. They seek release and forgiveness." Odin said nothing, his gaze shifting to Ragnhild. She stepped forward, her voice steady despite the awe she felt. "Among them is my brother Arvid. He gave his life for your cause, Allfather. If their curse is lifted, their souls may find peace, and so might we." Odin's expression remained unreadable, but he gestured for Birger to continue. Birger hesitated, knowing what must be done. He plucked a final chord on his harp and began to sing, not the grand tales of gods and heroes, but his own story. He sang of betrayal and exile, of the shame that had followed him and the courage he had found in this quest. As the final note faded, Birger's voice was taken from him. the melody lingering in the air like a fading star. His throat burned, but no sound emerged. He gasped, clutching at his chest, but his sacrifice was made. Odin nodded solemnly. The curse is lifted. The spirits of Naglfar shall find their peace. The gates opened briefly, and a rush of golden light enveloped the mortals. In the distance, they saw the spirits dissolving into the stars, their forms finally free. Among them, Ragnhild glimpsed her brother's face, his expression one of gratitude before he vanished into the ether. When the gates closed, Birger turned to Ragnhild, his voice gone, but his eyes shining with relief. She rested a hand on his shoulder, her own eyes glistening. "Your voice is gone, Skald," she said softly, "but your story will live forever." Together, they descended the frost bridge, leaving behind the realm of gods. Though Birger could no longer sing, his sacrifice became a legend whispered by firesides, a tale of redemption and the enduring power of courage. And with that, we say goodbye for this time. Thank you for listening to our story, The Frozen Shore, A Skald's Reckoning.